and just take time to tell someone's story. How many love a good story? Some people, I'm not really an emotional type of guy, but if you want to see me shed a little tear, which I don't think you probably do, but if you did, I love a good comeback story. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't even like dogs, but if it's a dog comeback story, I'll cry. If it's a person comeback story, I'll cry. I love a good comeback story. But everyone loves to hear a story. And this is something that we do sometimes called Faces of Grace. And this is obviously Faces of Grace Church, but it's also Faces of God's grace. And the truth is, I don't know where I would be without the grace of God. And just for a moment, think about where would you be without God's grace today. And so we have a couple that we're going to be talking to this morning, and won't be strangers to most of you. But I'd like to ask Chris and Ronilie to come on up. Buckle up. I don't know if you know this about Chris and Ronilie, but they're quite different from each other. Did you notice?
We say that about every day. Like, why on earth did God choose?
I bet you think that more than him. Oh, well, this is Chris and Ronilie, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves, introduce their family, and tell us how you met.
My name is Ronilie. This is Chris. We met at Youth Quake, and we're friends for about a few years, and then we started dating, and then a few years after that we got married, and now we have 4 kids, 5 and under.
5 and under. If you would like to have a nap during this time, it's no problem. So you guys met at Youth Quake, and who was into who here?
Probably me.
Probably?
Me. She has a funny story if you want to hear it.
We'd love to.
She didn't really like me with Youth Quake.
Let's hear it, Ronilie.
I just thought he was show off in general, but once we were in church and he was sitting like in front of me, and these 2 girls were sitting right in front of me, and he got up to go to the washroom, and there was like a big jersey number on his back, and they said 46 is my new favorite number, and I just rolled my eyes. I thought, what do they see in him?
Well, let's close in prayer. That's awesome. All right. So you guys met at Youth Quake. You've obviously, you guys are young. You have 4 children. You've been coming to Grace Church for a long time. But what influence did Youth Quake have on you? Each of you, growing up.
The support system was, first of all, we had great friends. We had Pastor Natasha, who kept us in line all the time. And other than that, the Youth Quake taught us great work ethics. You wouldn't think about it, but we did so much volunteer work. And Natasha was always after us to be polite and to be always working. And so every time I started a new job, and I realized that Youth Quake helped me a lot. And the volunteer work just helped keep the focus off of us, because as teenagers your life is so dramatic and you need to think about someone else than yourself.
What she said was also for me, but I'm gonna add to that. She said that Tasha kept us in line. I can tell you right now, I go home, I got disciplined by my parents, and I thought I was going to go to Youth Quake and be free. No, I'm not. Tasha was another mother. That's for sure. Yeah. But a great one. She was great in our lives. She was another thing. When we started Youth Quake, we were the oldest in Youth Quake, couple of us, and I think we had not a pressure, but we needed to set an example to the younger ones, and I think it brought up the leader in me, and obviously Tasha helped me a lot with that.
Over the last couple of years, your family has gone through a career change. Chris is Ronilie had some, and Chris had some children. And Ronilie has worked outside of the home as well, lots. And so Chris was he was an electrician. And he was, over the last couple of years, he's been transitioning to become a fireman. And so my question is, how has that been for your family? I know how it's been, but how has it, with all the things that were, how has it been for you guys as a family through that transition?
Well, I think relying on God was a big one. When I stopped my full-time job to begin my career in firefighting, it was financially it was not a great decision, but it was one of my dreams. So she supported me. Funny story: when I was working, she always kept saying you should get something that would benefit our future. Not saying that electrician is not a great job. It was, and Bernie was great to me, but just there's, you know how it is in construction down here. It's you work hard. In the end, if you don't, there's no benefits. Anyway, let's not get into that. But so I was a volunteer firefighter, and one day she tells me you should go pursue a career in firefighting. I said no. We have 3 children. There's no way I can do this. You need to study hard. So, and she went behind my back. She called all the fire departments around to see what job I needed to get in. And she called a firefighter from Dieppe, and she said, you need to come down and convince Chris to try it. I got home one night after work, and he was sitting at my table. And he said, what are you doing here? Well, he said, your wife called me, and she made pizza for him, so he was happy. And I don't know, it was, so he told me Dieppe was hiring part-time that January, and even then I prayed a lot, and then 6 in the morning he calls me, and that guy doesn't wake up at 6 in the morning, I can promise you that. And I was like, what is this? And he says, but they're hiring, like they're posting it, whatever. So, like I said, she went behind my back, so she knew all the courses that was going to be available for me in Nova Scotia Fire School. So we decided to go for it, and I knew that if I kept going with the electrician, I was not going to succeed, because this Coco is not that smart, so I need to I needed to really crank down on studying, and so like I said, financially I stopped working, and I started to study 8 hours a day, and she was at home. Like I said, it was fun times. But I did all my courses, and I remember one point I was doubting myself and doubting God. I should have never doubted God, but I'm still human sometimes. Not all the time. I'm still human, sorry. And I remember they called me to school and said, we're going to cancel the course. And I said, no, that's it. Cancel the course. It's the door closed. Because I knew if I didn't get all my courses before November, I couldn't apply. So, and then we prayed, and I didn't know what to do. I quit my job, like, what am I doing? And then we got a call, and she said, Chris, I got some news. We're going to go with the course anyway. We don't have enough guys, but we're going to do it anyway. So God came through big time there and said, no, Chris is on that list. You need to do that course. So yeah, we went through that, and then I applied. I got a part-time job at the Fire Department. That's where I started. And was all excited, but it was also hard. So
No, that was good.
yeah.
And so let Ronilie take it from there. So you got a part-time job, which was casual, so it was random shifts. He left his job, that was a good paying job, that supported at that time his wife, 3 kids. She was working outside the home as well. So my question then is this: what did it look like during that time where Chris was casual, you guys were looking for something that would be more steady? What was hard about that time?
So like he said, he was excited to get the casual position, but we didn't realize what we were getting into. He would work like a firefighter works 24 hours, and then a full-time firefighter has 3 days off. But Chris had to work his electrical job on the side because he was only part-time. So he would do his 24 hours and then work the whole day, come home exhausted, sleep a little bit, work electrical the whole day the next day. He could get called in at 7 a.m. to go in for a 24-hour shift. And just financially it wasn't stable at all. Last January he had full-time hours, and then in February he had 2 shifts for the whole month. So he had to go looking for work, and it was really frustrating.
There was times that Chris was working 3 or 4 different jobs. So he was doing electrical for Bernie, he was doing fireman, he was doing construction with Joel on the side.
He was coaching basketball.
He was coaching basketball. Yeah, so it was really hectic. And this is for Ronilie, and Chris can answer too, but I know that you had some sort of experience last year. And so why don't you tell us about that, and how has God been faithful through that really hectic time, which was about a 2-year period, even longer than that. But how has God been really faithful during that time, and plus tell us about what happened last year.
Well, he's been faithful, first of all, financially, because we sat down with Troy at one point and looked over a budget, and he couldn't believe how we ever made it work. And I said, I don't know either. The money we never ran out, and we've been really blessed in that way. But the numbers didn't match up, so I have no idea how we've lived off for the last 2 years. And last May, I was praying for a full-time job. I was getting pretty irritated. I thought God was just going to swoop in and give us a full-time job before then. And I really felt God challenge me and say that I needed to pray for a full-time job by the end of June of this year. And I wondered if that was okay, like if it was okay that I asked God for, a certain timeline and whatever. Anyway, so I just went on believing that, and when he applied to Moncton this year, they called him to give him a job offer on June 27th. So God was true to his word, and by the end of June 2018, he was a full-time firefighter, which means like a huge deal for our family. Like, I don't know if you guys understand, he works 24 hours and then gets 3 days off, and by the time he is earning his full salary, he will have replaced my salary when I was working and his salary as an electrician. So that means I can stay at home with my kids full time, he can work 24 hours and then be with us for 3 days. I am just amazed at how much God cares for us in that way, because he was perfectly fine being an electrician. He made good money, he had a good job, but God cared enough about him to give him a job that he's passionate about. I always say that the firefighter job was made for Chris. He wasn't made for it, but the firefighter job was made for Chris. There's camaraderie, there's hard work, a lot of adrenaline situation, and he gets to go to the gym while he's there. The job was made for him.
The other day, Chris was at work, and there was a new group of firemen that were coming in to do the test. And you have to pass the test in how long, Chris?
8 minutes.
8 minutes. And so they all go through, some passed, some failed. And Chris has already done all this, he doesn't have to do it. But his friends were like, come on, you do it, Chris, you show them how it's done. And Chris, if you know Chris, he'll always take a challenge. And so Chris did the test, and you finished in 5 minutes and 38 seconds. So this job was made for Chris. And but God was so faithful. I remember sitting down at Chris and Ronilie's house, and I remember we were doing a series on money and budgets and things like that. And Chris texted me the next day. He's like, "Would you like a challenge?" I said, "Sure." So I went over and we laid it all out on the table, and I was like, "You pay all this with that? You don't need me, that's for sure." And God was so faithful, and you guys have been so faithful. So, last question. What do you love about Grace Church? What would you say to someone today that are here listening or are going to listen to this maybe later online, if they are considering making a commitment to follow Jesus? So what do you love about Grace Church, and what would you say to someone who's considering making a commitment to follow Jesus?
Well, Grace Church is a great, warm, we're a community, and I think just like Youth Quake gave us accountability and fellowship, I think you need a church if you're going to be a Christian. I really think you need a place like this. And if you're thinking about making a commitment to Jesus, now that we're Christians, I just can't, I look back on our lives and I wonder, how do people ever do it without God? Like, how do you know which direction to go in? Like, how?
All of that. The people here are amazing. If I would say to someone who wants to start a Grace Church, the people are supportive. They love each other. You can, you feel the warmth and the love in this church. I love that we are part of the community also in Bogdos. And commitment to follow Jesus, I'm going to be totally honest, it's not easy. It's a hard path, but you have all these commitments to follow, but I've never felt so free. It fills the void in you, right? So it's an amazing journey, and yeah. So.
The thing is, God never promised it would be easy. And Chris and Ronilie are a good example of that. They became Christians at Youth Quake, followed Christ through their teenage years the best that they could. And easy would be that everything has always worked out when you wanted it to work out, in your time that you wanted it to work out, but that's not the case. These last 2 or 3 years have been really hard. And you have been faithful. And you have been faithful. And God has been faithful to you. And if someone tells you that following Jesus is going to be easy and it's going to fix everything, they're lying to you. They're trying to sell you a pyramid scheme. But he promises that he will always be with you. He says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I believe you'll agree with me today, you would not have gotten through these last 3 years if it wasn't for Christ. And we are proud of you. I mean, we put all our eggs in your basket for the church growth movement. Oh, you're done? Oh, okay. Well, someone else needs to step it up. But we are so proud of you. We love you guys, and thank you for sharing your story today. And not only you are a face of Grace Church, we can see God's grace in your lives. We're so proud.